I had a bit of a reputation: loud, sharp-tongued, and dirt-poor. Word around the village was that marrying me would curse your whole family. Then one day, this well-dressed lady showed up at my door. 1,000 silver a month. Marry my son, be his proper wife, she said. I was about to ask if she'd lost her mind when she added, my son has a bad leg. Our house is crawling with wolves. I need a fierce daughter-in-law to hold the fort. 1. Young Master Blackwood, I hear you've just married. With our years of friendship, I wasn't sure what to gift you. The man smirked, his eyes dancing mockingly over me. If you're feeling unwell, brother, I'm happy to help out in your place. I covered my mouth, laughing lightly. Oh, planning to hide under our bed and eavesdrop? There's always room in the doghouse out back. I gave him a sidelong glance. Trouble is, you're hardly fit to be a guard dog. There's a saying, a useless dog barks the loudest. You sure live up to that. His face burned red. You. I didn't let him finish. Raising my voice a bit, I said, folks, best steer clear of the latrine for now. Several heads turned. I looked back at him and sneered. Seems like this gentleman's mouth got dunked in the waste bucket, explains the stink. He jumped up, furious. Such foul words, woman. I shrugged. That was me being polite. Want to hear worse? After he stormed off, Alexander Blackwood, still sitting in his wheelchair, thanked me softly. Seeing him so frail and polite made my heart ache. I quickly reassured him, don't worry, from now on I've got your back. Alexander chuckled. Then I'll trouble you, my wife. That one word, wife, caught me off guard, and I felt my cheeks heat up. Thinking back on how I married Alexander, it was almost laughable. That day I was out back washing clothes when I heard a racket. Turns out, a few outsiders had come, pointing and whispering. A mountain girl like her? She'll never leave this tiny place. Illiterate too, only good for early marriage and serving a household. Look how scrawny she is, still made to wash all those clothes. We're here to give them a taste of the real world. Never leave the village? Illiterate? Washing clothes? I nearly laughed out loud. Were they making up a story or what? Pure nonsense, every word of it. 2. As their insults piled up, their fake sympathy grated on my nerves. I finally grabbed a drying pole and stormed outside. Shut your filthy mouths! That roar froze them in their tracks. Then, right there at the village gate, I tore into them for 2 whole hours. Not one of them could get a word in. Passers-by gave me a wide berth, staring like they'd seen a ghost. Honestly, people that low deserve to be chased off. After venting my anger, I went back home without a second thought. Little did I know, my story would spread like wildfire. They started calling me the sharpest tongue under heaven. Some even offered good money to hire me just to curse people out. I didn't think much of it, but a few days later, a matchmaker came knocking. She got straight to the point. 1,000 silver a year, marry our young master. Sounded like a joke. Until I stood before the towering gates of the Blackwood estate. It was all real. A glittering lady, Mrs. Blackwood, explained that her younger son had fallen from a horse, and though he survived, his legs were ruined. Now, with people laughing behind their backs, she needed someone like me to stand strong and protect her son. No family ties, sharp tongue, not scared of a fight, I was the perfect match. It sounded crazy, but the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. I hesitated and said, marriage is no small matter. 1,000 taels of silver every year. Maybe I should meet your son first? 1,000 taels of silver every month. All right then, madam. 1,000 taels monthly? Heck, even if he was ugly as sin, I'd still marry him. Turns out, Alexander Blackwood wasn't an ugly brute at all. He was devilishly handsome, way more striking than all those fancy young masters from noble families. What really got me, though, was seeing him sitting there in his wheelchair, gentle, polite, and still getting sneered at by a few self-important fools. At first, I couldn't figure it out. How could such a powerful family act so shamelessly? It wasn't until I spotted Maxwell Blackwood at the head of the hall, surrounded by flattery, that it all made sense. Big families, deep waters. Alexander looked pale but held it in. He just quietly endured. Me? I've never been afraid of fights or harsh words, but seeing someone so pitiful, my heart always goes soft like mush. Right then, I made up my mind I'd stand by him. Alexander had a kind heart. Even stricken like this, he never cursed his fate nor lashed out at others. 3. As for me, on my first day through the door, I sent 3 scheming maids running off bawling. They thought Alexander's crippled legs meant he had no shot at inheriting anything, so they cozied up to Maxwell and tattled about everything Alexander did. I kept a straight face and kicked each one out. Afterward, Alexander, sitting quietly nearby, handed me a cup of hot tea. Tired yourself out, didn't you? See what a good man he is? And yet they treat him like garbage. That night, Alexander was even more thoughtful. I know you don't hold any affection for me, he said gently. Marrying me must have been hard for you. I promise I won't ever cross the line. There are plenty of rooms in the house. Choose whichever you like. If you want the main room, I'll leave. I sat up straight and replied firmly, You're not well. I ought to be nearby to look after you. Worried I'd accidentally bump his injured legs, I set up a small cot right next to his bed. Half asleep in the night, I thought I heard whispers. Don't bother keeping it. Think dying will make it end? Even dead, he has debts to pay. Hearing that, my eyes snapped open. Dying? Was Alexander pretending to be cheerful when he was really planning to end it? I jolted up and looked over. His bed was empty. I rushed outside and spotted Alexander sitting under the moon gate, slumped over on a stone bench, looking absolutely heartbroken. So lonely. So sad. He heard my footsteps and turned slightly. Under the moon, his eyes narrowed a bit, and for just a split second, there was a sharp glint. I caught sight of his abandoned crutches and wheelchair lying off to the side and felt a stab of pain in my chest. Can't get back by yourself, huh? I said softly. Next time, just call me. I'm a light sleeper. You won't bother me. I pushed the wheelchair over and helped him back inside, careful as could be. Later, lying on my tiny cot, I tossed and turned. I couldn't stop thinking about those whispers, about death. Out of the blue, we both spoke up at the same time. What did you hear? You have to live, no matter what. Silence. The room fell into a heavy, breathless quiet. I figured Alexander must be feeling even worse now that I accidentally overheard him. After a moment of thinking, I got up from my cot and climbed onto his bed, reaching out to gently hold his hand. I know it's a lot to take in, I whispered, but someday we'll find a great doctor. Surely there's a cure out there. And anyway, nothing stays the same forever. Just because there's no way today doesn't mean there won't be tomorrow. As long as you're alive, there's hope. I gave his hand a squeeze. To be honest, for a noble son who'd never suffered a day's hardship, his hands were surprisingly delicate. Alexander gave an awkward little cough, and I quickly shook off my awkwardness, thinking, 4. I'll make sure they learn some manners soon enough. It hit me then, I'd been completely duped. Before the wedding, they promised 1,000 taels of silver every month just for me. Now that I was married in, that 1,000 taels had magically turned into the total expenses for both me and Alexander Blackwood's courtyard. Staring at the ledger, I recalculated the silver we had left in storage, feeling my jaw just about hit the floor. Alexander sat quietly nearby, looking all guilt-ridden. I dragged you into this mess, he said. I knew there was more he didn't say. In families like the Blackwoods, there was never any kindness when it came to internal fights. If Alexander had been healthy, maybe he could have stood a chance against his older brother. But now, with bad legs, he was tossed aside like yesterday's news. No match at all for someone sharp like Maxwell Blackwood. The Blackwoods didn't lack for money. This was just their way of telling him he didn't matter anymore. I tried to comfort him. It's fine. 1,000 taels a month is enough. After making sure Alexander wasn't going to start brooding, I immediately shifted gears and summoned the steward with a sharp voice. How's it only halfway through the month and half the silver's already gone? The more I flipped through the ledger, the more furious I got. 3 taels for 1 block of ice? Was it flown straight from paradise or something? Hold up. This meat. Why are we paying extra for express delivery on horseback? When I was done, I had only one thought. These high-born families really knew how to bleed someone dry. Like those pearl earrings they gave me the other day. Fake as a $3 bill. And that jade bracelet supposedly worth 50 taels? Just a copper bangle painted to look fancy. I stopped the steward. No more jewelry for me from now on. If we were spending that kind of silver, I'd rather buy some real gold or proper pearls that actually held value. Even with just 1 tael, I could get myself a pair of real pearls, save the rest of the 49 taels. I had no patience for their fake luxury. During dinner, I watched Alexander elegantly pick up a piece of meat with his chopsticks. He noticed my gaze and paused, then awkwardly offered it to me. Would you? Like a taste? No, no, you eat, you eat. I waved it off eagerly, watching him with stars in my eyes. Alexander looked a bit lost, but still obediently stuffed the meat into his mouth. Good? I asked, smiling sweetly. He nodded. I leaned in a little, my tone teasing. And compared to yesterday's meat, noticing anything different? Alexander froze mid-bite, glanced at the meat, then at me, clearly baffled. See? Whether it was express-delivered lamb or fresh local sheep, it tasted the same. Money saved. Not a single coin more would they trick out of me. 5. The end of the month brought Maxwell Blackwood's birthday feast. That afternoon, I ground my teeth and told the steward to order a 50-tailed jade clasp for Alexander. Just then, Alexander walked in. I put down the ledger and pushed him inside. Weren't you the one grumbling about how all this stuff was just rich folks' nonsense? You even sold off your own jewelry the other day. Now you're buying me something so expensive, he teased. I handed him the sketch of the design I had picked. I don't care about fancy stuff, I said, but your brother's banquet will have all sorts of people you know, and the first thing they'll judge is how you look. I'm not letting them look down on you. As for me, everyone already knows I'm from the countryside. Noon expects me to wear fancy trinkets anyway. Worst case, I just put them in their place with a few choice words. Alexander couldn't help laughing. He shut the ledger and said, Then I don't want anything either. You just stand next to me and help fend them off with words. He tilted his head, a mischievous glint in his eyes. It was pretty obvious. The people showing up at Maxwell Blackwood's banquet weren't coming to be friendly to Alexander. Everyone wanted to step on Alexander Blackwood just to get on the birthday elder's good side. For this tough battle, I even ran back to the village to learn a few new tricks from the sharp-tongued aunties by the entrance. When Alexander walked in, I was in the middle of trying on rouge. He scanned the options seriously, then picked up a box. Use this one, he said. I grabbed another and swapped it out of his hand. Alexander leaned over and gently applied the rouge on me, soft and careful. I checked myself out in the bronze mirror, super pleased. This is bright red. Whoever wears it looks unstoppable. I'll need it to hold my ground today. Alexander smiled a little, dipped a finger to my lips, and then tapped it onto his own. Is that so? Then I'll use it too, he chuckled. By the time we reached the mansion gates, my face was still burning. Seriously, Alexander was way too good at messing with me. Just when I thought I had calmed down, he pulled my hand over inside the carriage and slipped on a bracelet. The stones shimmered in the sunlight, sparkling like crazy. No woman could resist something that pretty. I kept turning my wrist to admire it, loving it more each second. Where'd you even get this? I thought we agreed to live simply, I teased. Alexander winked playfully. Bought it with my own private stash. I poked at his chest. Oh, Blackwood, already hiding money from your wife right after the wedding, huh? We arrived a bit late. Inside the main hall, the party was already in full swing. Everyone chatted and laughed, but pointedly ignored us. Looks like they switched tactics after tasting my temper. No more open fights, just sneaky little moves now. Not that Alexander or I cared. We just focused on living our own lives. Those pretentious faces weren't worth our time. I wheeled Alexander up to the table and fed him some cakes. He often got dizzy and weak because of his health, so I always kept an eye on what he ate. Our closeness clearly annoyed some people. Maxwell Blackwood strolled over with a wine cup in hand, giving us a look over before speaking in his older brother tone. Why are you dressed so shabby? Is someone at your courtyard pocketing your silver and mistreating you? If you're short on money, just ask your brother. I'd hate for someone to think they can take advantage of your bad leg and stir up trouble in the family. Oh, he was throwing shade now. I rolled my eyes, ready to clap back when a man next to Maxwell beat me to it. Exactly. Guarding against outside threats is easy, but you can't watch out for traitors at home, he sneered. Our family fortune isn't small. Second young master. Better be careful. I chuckled low and looked at Alexander. Is that your grandson? Alexander blinked, puzzled. The man snapped, "Country wench, I'm not a Blackwood." "Exactly," I said sweetly. "So why are you butting into the Blackwoods' business?" Acting all eager, I figured you must be Alexander's illegitimate grandson or something. Maxwell scowled and barked, "They're all guests here. Don't embarrass the family." Alexander's expression darkened, eyes flashing dangerously. Another voice added, "Letting a woman like her in the family? What a disgrace." No wonder the second young master's standards dropped after breaking his leg. I bent down closer to Alexander again. "Still got enough private silver left?" He nodded. "Good." I straightened up and socked that loudmouth right in the eye. With a loud thud, he screamed and clutched his face. Maxwell gasped, about to yell, "You!" I threw another punch, hitting him squarely. The whole party went into chaos. I grabbed the wheelchair and sprinted out with Alexander in tow. The wooden wheels rolled so fast they almost flew. We darted into the back garden, laughing breathlessly. I plopped down on the ground, exhausted, and when I looked up, I caught Alexander Blackwood smiling at me. "Husband, are you mad at me for causing trouble?" Alexander shook his head with a grin. "So, how do you feel about it now?" Mimicking my tone, he said, "Feels great." Oh no, I'd messed up my proper husband. "Right, I've still got this." I pulled out 2 pieces of pastry from my sleeve. One was sadly smashed. Alexander, being generous, split his untouched piece and handed half to me. He sat in his wheelchair while I sat on the ground. Hidden away in a little garden near the banquet, we shared a bit of pastry. "Don't we look like some broke couple right now?" Speak of the devil. Half a month after that joke about being a broke couple, disaster struck the Blackwood family like never before. Normally, a family as well established as theirs shouldn't have fallen overnight. Yet somehow, their wealth nosedived and debts piled up one after another. Even though I didn't know much about trade or politics, something smelled off. Word had it, several of his brothers at court got demoted in quick succession. Then Alexander told me Blackwood Manor couldn't afford to support him anymore. My heart skipped a beat. Could it be that Maxwell Blackwood set all this up just to get rid of his brother? "I don't want to drag you into this. If you wish, we can get a divorce anytime," Alexander said, calm on the surface, but sitting there alone, he looked heartbreakingly pitiful. "Don't talk nonsense. How could I possibly leave you?" I wrapped my arms around him without hesitation, too busy feeling sorry for him to notice the cold glint flashing through his eyes. I took Alexander back to my humble little yard in the countryside. It wasn't much, but it had everything we needed. Alexander wheeled himself around the courtyard, checking every corner with curious eyes. "Nice, right? I bought and set all this up myself," I said proudly while pushing his wheelchair. "After fighting with my family, I moved out and put this little place together, bit by bit." Alexander asked why I dared to stand up to them as a woman. Simple. They favored boys over girls. I was just there to slave away for my brother. Even asking to read a book would get me beaten, so I ran. Not willing to put up with it? Then fight back. You think I was born good at yelling? It's all practice, fighting and shouting. People like them only pick on the weak. That's why they loved banging on about women being obedient, because they're scared we'll turn into tigers they can't handle. Back in my own place, I finally relaxed and opened up more with Alexander. That night, we sat on my tiny bed, a candle flickering between us, casting a soft, suggestive glow around the room. Alexander leaned back against the bed, looking at me with those dark, gentle eyes. Excited, I jumped onto the bed. "Come on, we have something important to do." I grabbed a small cloth bag by the bed. "Come take a look. This is everything we've got. 1,000 taels a month might not be much for rich folks like you, but for us, it's a fortune. I've been scrimping and saving for months for a day like this." Alexander's expression shifted ever so slightly. "Your brothers wanted you gone for a long time. That's obvious to everyone. As for your lady mother, sure, she loves you, but when it comes down to survival, she has to lean on your brother. In the end, she'll always pick him. Otherwise, when you were getting bullied, she should have stood up for you herself, instead of dragging in a loudmouth like me to fight your battles." After the Blackwood family lost most of their fortune, Maxwell still clung to whatever scraps remained, and Mrs. Blackwood disappeared without a trace. "Don't worry, we've got enough silver to live comfortably for the rest of our days." And just like that, Alexander and I settled down quietly in our little courtyard. Now I'm living the life, money in hand, plenty of free time, and a handsome, gentle husband by my side. Honestly, couldn't be happier. Seems like heaven's really looking out for me. Just when I was basking in all this, a dashing young scholar showed up next door. I heard he's the son of the neighbors, studying in the capital, just home for a break. The guy was brimming with that youthful flair, polite and well-mannered when he came over to borrow something. Honestly, just watching him put me in a good mood. Hiss. Right when I was chatting with him, a sharp cry came from inside the house. Panicking, I rushed in. What happened? Alexander Blackwood's face had turned pale, but he still tried to calm me. It's nothing, just a little discomfort with my leg. He added, Looks like there's a guest? Invite him in for a bit. We've got that batch of tea we just sun-dried. It'd be good to serve. But how could I think about guests at a time like this? Since moving into this new place, his legs had never acted up. The only bad thing about this countryside was that good doctors were hard to find. I was terrified his leg had worsened from lack of regular treatment. I knelt down, carefully pressing and massaging his leg. I'm fine, don't fret, he said gently. But even though he said that, over the next few days, the pain kept flaring up. I practically stuck to Alexander Blackwood like glue, never letting him out of my sight. Even that wasn't enough to calm me. Seeing he could hardly move around, I settled him down and hurried off to gather medicine. When I came back, I found him sitting in the courtyard, chatting with the neighbor boy over the wall. The moment the scholar spotted me, his face changed, looked like he'd seen a ghost, and he bolted, leaving Alexander Blackwood sitting there alone, head bowed, lost in thought. As I got closer, he lifted his gaze to me, voice barely above a whisper. Scarlett, if you ever find someone who can really take care of you, just let me go. I won't blame you. No matter what, I just want you to be happy. Huh? I blinked, confused. Why are you suddenly saying stuff like that? Did that scholar tell him something? But no matter how hard I pressed, Alexander wouldn't say another word. That night, he disappeared. I searched all over our room and, in panic, shoved open the bathhouse door. There he was, leaning lazily against the wooden tub, glancing up at me before looking away again. Following his gaze, I spotted his fair, tempting skin through the steamy air. Man, for someone who barely moves all day, his body was unfairly good. I caught myself staring, mouth practically watering. Alexander Blackwood smiled slyly. Scarlett, want a touch? Shameless. Still, I all but leapt forward and pressed my hand to him. He lounged comfortably, letting me explore all I wanted. When I was completely lost in touching him, totally defenseless, he moved fast, grabbed me and pulled me right into the tub. I yelped and tried to wriggle free, but he tightened his arms around my waist. My love, don't squirm, he murmured in my ear. You don't want my leg hurting more, do you? Honestly, if not for worrying about his damn leg, I wouldn't be lying flat in bed now, feeling half dead. That troublemaker still sat by the bed, fiddling with my fingers. Scarlett, you're awake. His eyes sparkled as he looked at me. Last night, you promised you'd never leave me, no matter what, remember? Still mad, I tried to snatch my hand back, muttering hoarsely, I didn't promise. The light in Alexander's eyes instantly dimmed. It's my fault. I'm holding you back. Fine. I couldn't stand the pathetic look on his face. I said it. I promised. All right? Every damn time I fell for it. The wise avoid love. Fools like me just dive right in. But lately, there's been something off about Alexander Blackwood. Way too off. He used to be all warm and gentle, but always kept just a little distance, like we were separated by a thin veil. Ever since he moved in with me, he's been laying it on thick, acting all pitiful and making me swear over and over again that I wouldn't leave him. As if I'm some heartless jerk who'd ditch him at the first chance. That night, I'd whined and played up feeling unwell, so he took it a little easier on me. I actually managed to get a somewhat decent night's sleep for once. Half asleep, I thought I heard him getting out of bed, but no sound of a wheelchair. Without it, how was Alexander Blackwood supposed to move around? That was my first thought. I forced my heavy eyes open and caught a glimpse of his figure slipping through the door. He was. Standing? In a flash, I was wide awake. I wasn't dumb enough to think it was a miracle. No, clearly, This sneaky little fox had been hiding something from me. I jumped up and quietly followed him. The night was pitch black. Alexander stood out there, cold and silent, completely ignoring the man kneeling and begging before him. He even casually lifted his foot and stepped right on the hand of the middle-aged man leading the group, who, by the way, was wearing a commander's badge from the embroidered guards. I almost laughed out loud. Never thought I'd live to see the day when even officials would be groveling in our tiny courtyard. While I was debating whether storming out to yell at someone would hurt his dignity, he suddenly seemed alert and looked up. Our eyes locked. Caught off guard, he quickly softened his stare, slipping right back into that usual frail look he wore. He was good at the act, I'll give him that. The truth was crazier than any power struggle rumor swirling around. The difference? That cunning, sharp-witted powerhouse everyone gossiped about was my husband. Years of scheming against his brother Maxwell Blackwood, all hidden behind that weak facade. Maxwell thought an accident had sealed his victory. Little did he know it was just the beginning of Alexander's real plan. Wrecking the family fortune was a deliberate move. Alexander used it to cut himself clean from the Blackwood household and prepare for his comeback. As for the crippled legs, faked it from the start. So, you're perfectly healthy now with a fortune under your belt? Alexander sat obediently, nodded carefully, and quickly added, I did get hurt during that accident. My leg still aches when it rains. He lowered his gaze, playing up the pitiful bit. You did promise, no matter what happens, you wouldn't leave me. I snorted, lifted my head to look at him. Caught by his anxious gaze, I sprang up and started packing without hesitation. Heavens, sounds like I'm in for a life of crazy wealth. Not leaving, not leaving. I'm packing to move into your fancy mansion. Come on, when your poor, pitiful husband turns out to be a powerful official loaded with cash, you'd have to be a fool to leave. Are you still going to give me the yearly 1,000 taels? On our way back, I asked him, not too sure. Alexander's expression was complicated, just like his mood. I'll give you double. I cheered, threw myself into his arms. Compared to Alexander's endless worries and careful probing, I embraced his reveal with open arms and a suitcase. He had a new mansion ready, and I moved in without a moment's hesitation. His sudden rise to power caused quite a stir. Every day, people lined up trembling to beg for favors. Some of them had even been scolded by me before. Whenever that happened, Alexander would glance over at me. I didn't even spare him a look. Too busy. I was running my hands obsessively over the pristine, ornate jade balustrades for what felt like the 100th time. Just yesterday, Alexander had officially put the whole property under my name. Such a magnificent place. And it's mine? Absolutely amazing. With Alexander now a powerful figure, it was no surprise that my list of romantic rivals started growing fast. Not that I cared much. Honestly, with 2,000 taels a year coming my way, Alexander could take a few concubines, and I wouldn't even bat an eye. Alexander Blackwood clearly had no plans to let me have a peaceful day. Every time we ran into some clingy folks at gatherings, he'd just casually lean back and say with a straight face, Sorry, my lady, you don't want to mess with her. That was my cue to step in from backstage, full firepower ready, throwing off anyone trying to latch onto him. Honestly, everyone had already seen my combat skills back when Alexander was pretending to be crippled. After all this, my fierce wife reputation only got worse. Well, thinking about all the silver he was handing over, I figured, fine, let's put on the show. But today, things were different. When Alexander had someone call me over, he'd already had quite a bit to drink. And sitting right next to him was this young lady dressed head to toe in expensive silks, clearly some highborn girl. More importantly, the way she sat there, head held high and full of herself, made me wonder for a second which one of us was the actual wife. Someone nearby kindly whispered to me, that's Alexander's ex-fiancée. Oh, exes are exes for a reason. What's she doing here trying to reclaim lost ground? I gave her a polite and breezy greeting. Nice to meet you, former fiancé. Scarlet Hayes, right? She sneered. You should get your head straight. Someone from the countryside like you isn't good enough for Alexander. You should learn your place. Familiar lines. Way back then, I'd already acted in enough rich family dramas to know this routine. I looped an arm around Alexander's shoulder and said with a grin, "Thing is, he gives me 2,000 taels every year. You folks loaded enough to beat that?" The lady nearly popped a vein from anger and snapped, "From what I hear, you do know some reading and sewing. Why not find honest work instead of leeching off someone? Don't you feel ashamed?" "Ashamed?" I echoed, wide-eyed. "I'm married to the captain of the Imperial Guards, mind you. They say marrying well saves 10 years of hard work. If you had the choice, what would you pick?" Alexander didn't look too pleased. Back at the manor, even after he sobered up, he stayed oddly quiet. He was sitting there, deep in thought, when he suddenly mumbled, "Wife, maybe you should just yell at me." "Huh? Was that a thing now? I get the feeling. You don't really love me, you just love my money and status." Good heavens, that was a serious accusation. "I hug you like your treasure every night. How's that not love?" "No," Alexander got a bit flustered. "Not that kind of love. I mean, you didn't even get mad when you found out about all the stuff I hid from you. If you really cared that much, you'd have lost it." I blinked. "Okay, then what do you want me to do? Feel sad, angry, upset, ignore me, make me beg for forgiveness. And after that?" He lowered his voice, almost dreaming. "We make up, happily ever after." I burst out laughing, slapping my thigh. "Now that's what you call a proper fairy tale ending." Alexander opened his mouth, maybe to argue more, but I reached over and pinched his cheek. "Listen, Alexander Blackwood, I know what's eating you. 1, you've never shortchanged me. And 2, I've always lived by my own rules. Love honestly, hate cleanly, no petty regrets. I pick what's good for me, but never at the cost of others. Call me greedy if you want. I don't mind, because deep down I know I've found someone worth walking beside. I won't let the past mess up the happiness we have now. And what's here and now, it's better than anything else."